Landman is back this week with Season 2 Episode 8, and as we approach the end of the second season, I can't help but be disappointed by what Taylor Sheridan has given us. Like last week, this week's episode proved to feel like a whole lot of nothing and contained dramaless activities where the only important thing to take away from it was the two meetings that Tommy Norris had. The one with Cami and also the one with Dan Morrell. I'd like to think that we're building towards an explosive finale like we were in Season 1, but this show just simply isn't the same anymore. Even though the plot didn't drive the story forward that much, there were some tender moments between Tommy and his father TL which could be painting the direction that Tommy Norris is going to go in. So with that, let's dive into the episode, break down all the important details, and I'll share what I thought of it. Here is Landman Season 2 Episode 8, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. My review of the episode. Now, usually I put my review at the end of the video, but this week I wanted to start with it. I don't know if anybody else is thinking this, but what the hell has happened to Landman? This show barely feels anything like what we got in Season 1 of the show. Season 1 was filled with action, drama, death, and great dialogue between the characters, and now it genuinely feels like we're just seeing Tommy in a car driving from meeting to meeting. It's lost all essence of being on the rig, the community, the camaraderie, but also the conflict that occurs. I actually thought we were going to get a bit of that in this episode when we saw Cooper being assigned as the project lead on the rigs that Tommy took off of him, but we didn't see it at all. I actually felt like including that scene just seemed pointless because we never went back to it. In the first season of the show, the characters just felt way more fleshed out. Cooper had this desire to get out of his father's shadow and he wanted to be a success in his own right. But in this season, that's fallen to the wayside completely and the only screen time we're getting with him is focused on his love for Ariana, which is nice, but there's more to the character than that. In fact, we didn't even see the aftermath of the proposal, which is how episode 7 ended, so the writing of his arc is just completely all over the place. I think removing the cartel element of the show was a big mistake too. It just feels like there's no real danger this time round. There's financial jeopardy for Tommy, Cami and MTEX in this season of the show, but by having that at the forefront, it just means that it's taken away the excitement of a physical threat or an enemy that actually feels like an enemy. Last season, there were moments that I distinctly remember, such as Tommy with the cartel in episode 1, the worker having an accident and dying, the explosion on the site, Cooper getting targeted, Monty dying, and even Tommy being taken by the cartel during the ending. In this season, I don't feel like there's a single moment that lives up to the smallest of those, and I just think it's a real shame because I was such a big fan of season 1. The fact that episode 7 received the lowest rating in the show's history and the story in this week's episode didn't really improve. It doesn't paint a good direction for the show as we build towards the ending. I'm also getting quite frustrated with Angela and Aynsley and their incorporation in the story. It's getting to the point where it's taking away from the main plot and their behavior just makes me roll my eyes. Taylor Sheridan has written real quality pieces of television like 1883 and 1923, and with this season, especially the back end of it, it just feels below par for him. Now, I hope I'm not the only one thinking this because it's been a bit of a rant, but it's not that I don't like the show because I do. I was a big fan of season 1, but I don't know how much more of this I can take. I'm going to keep watching it because I want to see how the story concludes, but I just think it's a shame that a show that felt quite different to many other shows that are out there last season has almost transformed into something that I don't really recognize. Now let's talk about the ending for the characters. Tommy Norris. As we've seen throughout most of this season, Tommy has been driving from pillar to post with the hopes of dealing with the $400 million that Monty didn't invest into drilling on the rig that was destroyed by the hurricane. Tommy found out through Charles that there was only a 10% chance of digging and striking gas on the side, so the odds were completely against them. This meant that he brought Rebecca and Charles to Cami with the hopes of getting her to change her mind and choose to go to court against the insurance company, rather than lose the $400 million by digging and missing. However, what we saw with her was that she valued her word over everything else. So even though there was only a 10% chance of success, she wanted to risk it because MTEX gave their word. She said, if we never keep our word, what's our word worth? So the fact that she's a woman of principle was taking priority. Cami is feeling alone in the world following Monty's death and she doesn't quite know how to handle being on her own because she's got nobody. She no longer has anybody to confide in or to go to, and her drive for success is something that's keeping her motivated. Now that she doesn't have anybody in her life, her driving force is her hunger for success. Even if it means giving up the wolf camp fields, which are a certainty, in the hopes of digging on this side as a risk. With Cami making that decision, Tommy went and saw Dan Morrell and he decided that he wanted to continue with the project. This is because when Cami secured the loan with him, she secured it with royalties, so he's set to make a lot of money when she eventually sells the company. It's ultimately in his best interest for her to do so because he'll stand to make even more of a fortune from it. So the way Dan Morrell's gone about it ultimately makes him a winner when Cami, even though she'll get money, she'll be a loser. She wants success and selling the company simply isn't that. The other part of Tommy's arc that felt quite powerful in this episode was when he was with his father in the opening scene when he fell in the pool. TL spoke of how he felt like it was a curse that his mind was so sharp because he was aware of his body aging and how it was failing him. He was in tears at the fact that he felt like his life was coming to an end and that he had to be aware of it. The piece of dialogue that TL said to Tommy in the previous episode, which was, "You've got it all, but you're too stupid to see it," was felt by Tommy as TL was in the state that he was in. TL being frail and old and upset at the prospect of death, whilst Tommy is always wishing death because his life is so chaotic, was a contrast that was felt here, and Tommy almost took a moment and breathed. I think we're now at a point where we're seeing Tommy see the value in the family that he has, and he's now starting to question if he should be spending more time with them before it's too late, and he gets to a point where he's like his father. The travel and the stress is going to get the better of him eventually, and then he might end up getting what he wished for, all whilst never seizing what was right in front of him all of that time. With TL, I thought it was a nice contrast having him finish whilst floating in the pool in a comfortable position compared to the opening part of the episode with him being in the pool because he fell in. It showed that maybe TL was going to find peace with what was in front of him and his mindset might start to change now. Angela and Aynsley. As per usual, the mother and daughter duo were just off on their own adventure with the old folks in taking them to a casino so they could have some fun. They also did a makeover on Margaret, and as I said at the start of the video, it was a bit of a pointless inclusion. From the video call to the scene on the roulette wheel to the weak dialogue that exists between her and her daughter. I just feel like they take away from the main part of the story and they eat up screen time that we could be getting with Cooper working on the rig and other elements just like that. It wouldn't be that bad if they weren't so poorly written and given the most cliched characteristics. Rebecca. Rebecca's arc is one that's also transformed from last season. She's this powerful figure and over the past couple of weeks she's been given the Aynsley and Angela treatment where a man is taking over her mind. In this week's episode, with her being frustrated at Charles for essentially selling the opportunity to Cami in a way that made her not want to walk away from it, he then mentioned to her how she'd essentially be a miserable, lonely old woman. Something that she was afraid of becoming, and it showed that she'd even thought about it before. So it feels like we might see her mindset also change as we build towards the finale. She might finally relax a little and have balance in her life. Ultimately, I was disappointed in this week's episode. There's only 2 episodes left until the season concludes, and I just hope it does pick up in some way. We deserve it. We've stuck through this season, and I think knowing just how good Season 1 was, it's a shame that Season 2 just seems to have fallen below par. I'm not going to be too negative, because I'm optimistic that the show can turn around in the final 2 episodes, but let's see. So, there you have it. Landman Season 2 Episode 8, Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos on Landman Season 2, then check the playlist below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. What did you think of this week's episode? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.